Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, Adrian here. Welcome back to the channel. What are we doing today? I'm going to be listing a bunch of popular MMORPGs that have been announced either recently or have been successfully kickstarted and crowdfunded that are currently in internal private testing or testing that's open to their backers and pledgers, and sort of predict if we will see any of these games being released publicly in 2019, either an open beta leading up to launch or not. And if not, then I'll just, kind of give my opinion on when it's going to release. And because of MMORPG release dates, they are so subject to change. I mean, it's so volatile how these things can change. If a developer says it releases, at a specific date, that could change, or it could be true, who knows, which is why this has the potential to be a fantastic drinking game. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be listing all the MMORPGs that I'm keeping my eye on for 2019, and I'm just going to predict when they're going to come out. You guys can do the same too if you guys think you'll see any of these in 2019, and at the end of the year, we'll come back to this video, and for every one that we got wrong, I'm going to be taking shots. You guys can join me or not. So with that, let's get straight into the list. Alrighty, and we're starting off our list with Ascent Infinite Realm. This Korean MMORPG is being made by Bluehole, and if you've not heard of them, think of Terra or PUBG. And the publishers that are going to be bringing this game to the West is Kakao Games of Black Desert Online fame. As for Ascent Infinite Realm, or AIR for short, if this is your first time hearing about it, this is going to be an open world, steampunk setting high fantasy MMORPG that features airships and airship customization, on-ground combat with dungeons. There's RVR PvP as well, and all of that takes place in aerial combat. And when first announced, a lot of people got excited for this. So what's the update on AIR? It's been pretty quiet over the last 12 months. There hasn't been any leaked footage of any sort, and there has been a couple of beta tests in Korea leading up to one of their convention expos where they did show off the game somewhat, only to attendees. But besides that, if you go to their official website, there hasn't been a lot of development posts. The last one we saw was in June, talking about concept art, and before that classes as well. However, you have to do a little bit more digging and go to the AIR forums to see that a CM has actually been updating players on what's coming. And as of December 2018, we do know that development is still coming strong. They've only recently released details about the residential system. There's going to be solo dungeons and a lot more. I think development progress is more rampant and public in Korea. So for global players and Western audiences, we're just going to have to be a little bit more patient to see more of Ascent Infinite Realm. Prediction time. Will we see an open beta or release in 2019? I'm going to say yes to beta in 2019, but release in 2020. Next up is Intrepid Studios' Ashes of Creation. Now we know that AOC has released Apocalypse, which is its standalone battle royale game, on the 18th of December last year, and that mode is still going. Players can play that for free and test the combat systems and check out the graphics and environments, with more modes like Castle Siege and Horde mode coming later on. However, the main MMORPG is still in Alpha 0, and it's scheduled to enter Alpha 1 and a persistent Alpha 2 in Q2 and Q3 respectively of this year. On the Ashes community wiki, you can actually check out the release schedule for a lot of these things, however, subject to change, of course. And on there, Beta 1 is supposed to happen in 2019, and based on the progress that we've been seeing on these Ashes of Creations live streams and community updates, I'd say, or I'd predict that that may happen. We are on track. So my prediction is everything on the Ashes community wiki should happen, should follow through. So we will see the betas take place in Q4 2019, and the game's launch before the new year 2020. This is me being super optimistic about the game's release, but that's what prediction videos are for. We're here to take risks, and if I get it wrong, hey, I'll take shots. Moving on now, we have Bless Unleashed. Yes, I'm doing this alphabetically, and Bless Unleashed is on the list. If you've not heard of Bless Unleashed, it is apparently the sequel to the Bless Online MMORPG, and it takes place on console, so this is an Xbox One game. It's built from the ground up using the Unreal 4 engine, and we saw a lot of gameplay footage from last year's PAX. I cannot tell you if this is going to go through the same ordeal that the global release on Steam for the MMORPG went through. However, despite all that the IP has gone through, people are actually still excited for this. On the one hand, I can understand this. There isn't a whole lot of MMORPGs on the Xbox One for players to sit down and play through, so Blast saw that as a good opportunity, except Black Desert Online is going to beat it to release. Players can actually pre-order BDO on Xbox One in a couple of days, so Blast Unleashed will have to compete with BDO, which is arguably the most popular Korean MMORPG out there today. So prediction time, will we see it release in 2019? Yes. Looking at how these Korean studios operate, they don't really think about staggering their releases or releasing shortly after a competing studio's game comes out. In fact, it'll be better if they could just rush the release to match the launch of a competitor's game. That's how they operate. So we will see launch of Blast Unleashed in 2019. That's my prediction. Moving on, we have Camelot Unchained. Camelot Unchained has been in development for a very long time now, first going into funding in 2013, so this is 6 years now. It is the successor to Dark Age of Camelot, of course, and yes, the game is testing internally with pledge backers at the moment, and unfortunately, Camelot Unchained, or CU, has a very strict NDA, or non-disclosure agreement, so I can't tell you anything about it. I can't talk about the current state of the game. I can only go straight to my predictions. And my prediction is we will not see Camelot Unchained being released in 2019. If I were to guess, I'd say either Q1 or Q2 2020 or Q4 2020. Let's head on over now to Chronicles of Illyria. This one I'm still interested in. Chronicles of Illyria had a successful Kickstarter campaign, of course, coming out of Steam's greenlit program, and it's been slowly chipping away at updates, and from what I've seen of the game so far, it's coming along nicely. This is the MMORPG that has the persistent world and death as well, death and aging, so your character can grow old and die, and everything that you do in the world has a consequence for other players as well. It also isn't your typical high fantasy MMO, it's more mid fantasy, and again, while progress is going on nicely, unfortunately, I don't think they've hit a lot of the objectives on their pipeline just yet. So my predictions for Chronicles of Illyria is probably a beta of some sort in Q4 2019 with release later in 2020. Up next is Crowfall, the Throne War Simulator featuring sandbox world, in-depth crafting systems, and massive siege-scale warfare. This is a PvP-centric MMO that again has been in development for quite some time, but compared to a lot of other games on this list, a lot of its updates and progress has been really public because Crowfall by Artcraft Studios is one of these games that have been very open about their progress. So there's been no NDA whatsoever, which is why you see a lot of people making videos about Crowfall at the moment. Currently, it's still in a pre-alpha stage, but it's moving along very nicely. And in fact, just in December, Crowfall has begun testing its campaign system, which allows you to create characters and take part in this timed campaigns to conquer worlds for your faction with other players and your guilds. And this game is part of my next cycle of reviews, so stay tuned for more on Crowfall. As for prediction time, I'd say yes, we should see a public beta or soft launch in 2019 and release in 2019 itself. I would be really surprised if Crowfall doesn't go live and release in 2019. Next up, we have New World, or Amazon's New World. I made a video about this last year because Amazon has got into the business of MMORPGs. It's got a big budget for this brand new survival MMO, and it's been conducting a very closed beta, so if you've got an invite, lucky you. We have not seen anything about this game. It's being kept under the wraps, as most big studios tend to do, and what that does is it prevents overhyping and other negative connotations that comes from showing off too much development gameplay, which could be really negative down the line. So in that regard, I think Amazon is doing the right thing. It's also got people on the fence, New World, because it is a survival genre MMO. We've seen a lot of these come out over the last 5, 6, 7 years now. Your Ark Survival Evolves, your Wrens, your Rusts, and games of that nature. So what can Amazon bring to the table? We know it's going to have a better server system than most of these other games out there, in addition to better graphics and gameplay and systems. But that's all we can speculate on because, like I said, it's being kept very well under wraps. So prediction time, will we see New World release in 2019? I actually don't know. That's the thing. I really don't know. This is the title on this list that I'm drawing blanks for. I'm gonna say beta or public beta in 2020 with release either later that year or 2021. I just don't know with this one, so this is definitely gonna be a shot taker for me. On the list, we also have Lost Ark Online. A lot of people are losing their heads about this game. It's another Korean MMORPG or ARPG because it's a top-down Diablo lookalike with other players that seems to have interesting gameplay. For me at least, I've been burned too many times by Korean MMORPGs like these. I've jumped into games like Warlords Awakening and Mu Legend, and none of them have any sort of substantial MMORPG content that could keep me interested. But unlike those two games that I just mentioned, Lost Ark Online obviously has a lot of publicity because of people that have talked about it, in addition to a very good PR campaign over here in the West, which Korean MMORPGs almost has to do and have to have a budget for if they're planning on porting over. So will it launch globally and in the West in 2019? A couple of my MMORPG journalist friends says yes, so I'm gonna take their word for it. Yes, we will see this in 2019. Moving on, we have Saga of Leucemia, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a social-focused MMORPG, so it's a very group-focused game, and I've only heard about it recently in December last year. Where's the game at? Currently in update 11 or 12, I suppose, and I guess that's how they name their internal alpha patches. I think it's an alpha, but in some ways it's also very public because we got to see the developers show off the current build of their game, and from what I've seen so far, it has a mixture of Shroud of the Avatar and Life is Feudal, but Saga of Leucemia just comes across as more modern with more fluid graphics and animations for its current stage in development, and I think that's pretty impressive, but I'm not too sure about the gameplay. Will we see this publicly released in 2019? My prediction is no. I think if SOL had something big planned, we may have already heard about it in December, so I'm going to say launch in 2020 or later. And finally, bringing up the rear of the list is the untitled Lord of the Rings game being developed by Athlon. Now, a lot of you have been asking me for updates on this game. Are there any updates? What's going on with the new LOTR game? Guys, I don't know, and a lot of people who covers games don't know either because they've been absolutely radio silent. I've had a couple of friends reach out to them. If you go to their website, they actually have an info email where you can get in contact, so if you're a PR or journalist, you can get in touch and get some updates, but we've heard nothing back from Athlon Games. There has been a couple of updates elsewhere, most noticeably on their website, where you can now see a proper Tolkien-esque Middle-earth map, just to let people know, yep, we are the ones making the new Lord of the Rings game. Interesting to highlight is that they have a jobs or positions available page as well on their website, as most of these companies do, where you can see what roles are hiring or what positions are open. Interesting, as of January the 1st, when I first checked, there are no job openings available. Now, this could mean two things. When a studio announces a new game, within the first 4 or 5 months, you will see a lot of job openings being posted in the event that the studio needs more expertise to develop said game, so you'll see a lot of new hirings come to the studio. Second scenario is that if there are no new hirings, even though this new game has been announced, is that all the expertise that they need for the game is already in-house. So no hirings necessary. Which of the two is more likely at the moment? I actually think Athlon will open up some job postings in 2019. They just haven't got around to it yet. So what does that mean? That means you are not going to see this game in the next 3 years. That's my prediction. They are nowhere near putting out the new Lord of the Rings game. And even then, we don't actually know if it's going to be a proper MMORPG or if it's going to be one of these online co-op MMOs, shared RPG world, or even a survival game. Can you imagine that? A Lord of the Rings survival games? Gosh, who knows? But my prediction is you won't see this until either 2022, 23, or 24. Yeah, it's a long ways away. So that's it, guys. Those are my MMORPG predictions for 2019. There's every chance I could be wrong for every one of them, and if that's the case, so be it. I'll take 10, 12 shots on video and get pissed drunk. What about you guys? What do you guys think? How many of these games will we see in 2019? What's your predictions? And if the new MMORPG on this list does not excite you or interest you at all, that's rather unfortunate because this is all that we have to look forward to in terms of new games. But let's not forget the existing MMORPGs that are going to have brand new content, of course. Guild Wars 2 will release a new episode in a couple of days. Final Fantasy XIV has a new expansion in the summer. Warcraft's BFA expansion cycle will go on. Terra is increasing their level cap in March. ESO probably has 3 DLCs and a chapter planned for us this year, and I could go on and on. So the existing games currently isn't going to lay down and keep quiet while all these new games get a lot of the media attention. We're going to have lots to play, you guys. So that's it from me. Hit the like button for the love of MMOs, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Once again, I'm Adrian, and I thank you for watching. Hey folks, welcome to the end screen. Thanks very much for watching that video. Say goodbye to this end screen. It's going to change for 2019. I'm going to redesign the thing. Anyway, if you like what you see, you want to watch more, you can click on the cards down here and subscribe to the channel by clicking the button below me.